Welcome everyone to this new session of microwave engineering. In this session, we are going to see one important type of network which is used in design of a microwave communication system. Such network is impedance matching network. Now let's see what is impedance matching network and why it is necessary to include that in the microwave communication system. An impedance matching network, or it is also called as tuning network, it is important part of large design process for a microwave component or a system. The reasons, primary three reasons are there. First one is maximum power is delivered when the load is matched to the transmission line and power loss in the feed is minimized. So we have seen previously also, in order to get maximum output from a microwave system, transmission line should transfer maximum power to the load impedance. Often is the case that the load impedance does not have an equal value with the characteristic impedance of the transmission line. That means if I have to state it mathematically, characteristic impedance of transmission line Z0 is not always equal to load impedance. So when they are not equal, then maximum power cannot get transferred to the load impedance. Let's say this is ZL and this is Z1. So to get maximum power transfer, these two should be equal. Then only we can say that by the voltage divider rule, same power will come across Z0 as well as ZL. So in order to achieve this, we need impedance matching network, because ZL is application dependent, whereas Z0 can be used for, or Z0 is a characteristic impedance of a line which may be used for large range of frequencies. So to transfer the power in a maximum manner, impedance matching networks will be required. Another reason is impedance matching sensitive receiver components may improve the signal to noise ratio of the system. So the components such as antenna, amplifiers, they are sensitive to the signal to noise ratio. So in order to get higher signal to noise ratio, impedance matching networks are required. Then the third reason is impedance matching in a power distribution network may reduce the amplitude and phase errors. Since we need to reduce the noise in the system, that means we need to increase the signal to noise ratio in the system, it is necessary to reduce the errors observed in the amplitude and phase in the output waveform. So to do that, impedance matching network can be utilized, such as antenna array feed network, which distributes the power equally among the all elements of an array. Such networks may be useful. So these are the three primary reasons for which impedance matching networks are utilized. Okay, so let's see how to design them, or what is the basic idea before designing them. So what is the basic idea behind creating impedance matching network? As you can see on your screen, this is a transmission line, output port of a transmission line, and this is the load impedance. So Z0 is not equal to ZL always. So to match them, that is to obtain maximum power transfer from output port of a transmission line to the load impedance, we are inserting an impedance matching network in between. Okay, so matching network is always placed in between output port of a transmission line and a load impedance. Similarly, same matching network can be used at the input side also. Okay, so let's say source resistance is there or source is there. So to transfer maximum source power to the input of a port, you need a input matching network at the input side. So matching networks not only used on the output side, but they are used on the input side as well. On input side, they will transfer maximum power from source to the network. At the output side, they will transfer maximum power from the output port to the load. Okay, so ideally this network is lossless. To avoid unnecessary loss of power, that means while waves getting transferred from output port to the load, power loss should not be there. To avoid that, they are usually designed so that impedance seen looking into the matching network is Z0. So if let's say this is 50 ohm and Z0 is let's say 25 ohm, then when we look into the matching network from this side, it should appear as this combination of these two, or if we look it into this side, the combination of output port and matching network should present a impedance of 50 ohm. Only then voltage divider rule will provide equal power to the both impedances. Okay, so that is the meaning of this statement. So because of this matching of impedances, there is no power that will reflect from the matching network. So when waves are transferred from output port to the matching network, all waves will be transferred because there is no power loss and there will be no reflection back from the network. Although it is seen that when waves are getting transferred from matching network to the load, there is some reflection observed between the network and the load, matching network and the load. Okay, so multiple reflections are observed between matching network and the load. So matching network is ideally a lossless network to which we can connect any arbitrary load, and they are connected at the output side after the transmission line. Okay, so what are the different factors that you have to consider while selecting a particular matching network? First of all, we have to remember this matching network consists of reactive components like inductors and capacitors. So the choice of these components is dependent on several factors. Okay, so first thing, as long as load impedance has a positive real part, matching network can always be found. What's the meaning of this? So when we know that ZL is represented by RL plus JXL, where RL is a real part and XL is a reactive or imaginary part of the load impedance ZL. So whenever this RL is positive, you can always find a matching network, which is the case in most of the times. Okay, so always remember this RL has to be positive in order to obtain the matching network. Okay, so the different factors that may be important in the selection of particular matching network, they include, the factors are, first is a complexity. The matching network that we are going to design has to be simpler, because if it is simpler, it will be cheaper, it will be smaller, so easy to fabricate, it will be reliable, and less loss will occur, that is less power loss will occur while transferring waves from output port of a transmission line to the load impedance. So complexity should be carefully chosen. If you require a large bandwidth, then it may get slightly complex, but ideally it should be kept as simple as possible. Second factor, the bandwidth. Now bandwidth, as we know, is a range of frequencies over which the microwave system will work upon. Now most of the times we are using lumped elements in the matching network. Lumped elements means resistors, inductors and capacitors. Now these lumped elements don't have same properties at all frequencies. So in those cases we use distributed elements like stubs, transformers and so on. So it is desirable to match load over a band of frequencies. Depending on your range of frequencies on which the transmission line is working, let's say transmission line works on a 400 megahertz to 3 gigahertz. For such frequencies, lumped elements may be useful because their properties do not change for such a low microwave frequencies. But if you are working on a frequencies which are higher in the range, that is let's say 50 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz, then this is very high range of microwave frequencies. So for such high range, lumped elements will not work. So you have to go for distributed elements. So depending on what type of components you are using, you can choose your bandwidth, or in reverse, if your bandwidth is large, your frequency range is also large, then you can go for either lumped or distributed element matching network. So there comes the third part, the third factor, implementation. Depending on the type of transmission line or waveguide being used, one type of matching network may be preferable to another. That's the point that we have just discussed. Stubs versus transformers. Okay, so different applications require different range of frequency. Depending on which range of frequency you are implementing in the microwave system, either lumped element or stubs or transformers can be used. So you have to carefully choose proper components in a matching network. Okay, and the last factor that may be considered, adjustability. In some applications, matching network may require adjustment to match the variable load impedance. So whenever we design a matching network, we should be able to adjust the component values of a matching network as per the variance of the load impedance. Usually we consider as ZL is a fixed value, let's say certain ohms, 50 ohms. But what if ZL has a variable impedance at different frequencies? So ZL is a, let's say, rheostat. So if it is variable, let's say 50 to 80 ohm is the impedance shown by the load impedance, then your matching network should produce equal variation in the characteristic impedance or total impedance offered by the matching network, so that maximum power will always get transferred between matching network and load impedance, and that adjustability must be there in the matching network. So carefully choose the components while designing the matching networks. So the four primary factors that are considered are simpler, bandwidth, depending on bandwidth choose the components, implementation, depending on again the bandwidth choose the lumped, distributed, within distributed, whether to use stubs or transformers, choose them wisely, and last, if load is variable, then your matching network should be also adjustable. Okay, so let's see first version of matching networks, that is matching with lumped elements. So that is the most basic or simplest type of matching network, that is matching network using lumped elements, or it is also called as L section. L stands for lumped, which uses two reactive elements to match an arbitrary load of ZL to a transmission line. So on your screen you can see two diagrams, two different versions of lumped element networks are shown over here. Here you can see these are the two ports of, or this is the port of, two terminals of output port of a transmission line here, and also here these are the terminals of output port. At the same time, this is the two ports of, or two terminals of output port of matching network. So your matching network resides in this particular space. This is your matching network. Okay, so in the diagram A, matching network consists of one series element followed by one shunt element, whereas in the figure B, matching network consists of initially a shunt element followed by a series element. Both configurations are possible for design of a matching network. So figure A, as I said, network ZL, it is inside the 1 plus Jx circle, and network for ZL outside the 1 plus Jx circle. So what is 1 plus Jx circle? It is the resistance circle on the impedance Smith chart for which R is equal to, that is radius is equal to 1. So what is impedance Smith chart and what is the circle associated with it? What is 1 plus Jx circle? This we will understand during the Smith chart solutions for design of a matching network. Okay, so usually there will be, when you draw a Smith chart, there will be one circle through on which you can find different values. Let's say there is this point, the value of this point will be R plus Jx. Okay, so if your ZL resides inside this particular circle, then let's say, let me draw it again. If ZL is inside this circle, we should go for this network, and if ZL is outside this circle, we should go for this network. Okay, so different values of ZL requires different configuration of matching network. We will see that during Smith chart solutions later in the module. Okay, so let's consider the first circuit. Before going for actual calculation of the values of Zx and Zb, let's discuss the reactive elements may be inductors or capacitors depending on load impedance. Okay, so that we have already discussed that it will consist of reactive elements. If the frequency is low enough or circuit size is small enough, actual lumped element capacitors and inductors can be used. So as I said, for low range of microwave frequencies, lumped elements are used like L and C. R is not used because we are using only reactive elements. So if frequency range is very high, like 50 Hz to 100 GHz, 50 GHz to 100 GHz, or even more than that, then you go for stubs and transformers. Okay, so if frequency is low, go for actual inductors and capacitors. If frequency is really high, then go for distributed parameter elements like stubs and transformers. Okay, so this may be feasible for frequencies up to 1 GHz. As I said, L and C up to only 1 GHz, small range of microwave frequencies. Modern microwave integrated circuits may be small enough such that lumped elements can be used at higher frequencies as well. Okay, now when these microwave systems are fabricated onto IC, they already become very small. So in such a small space, you can also use this L and C at high frequencies also. Now one question arises, why we are using inductors and capacitors in their original form at low microwave frequencies, and why we are using stubs or transformers at high microwave frequencies. The relation between the size or dimension of the capacitor inductor and the wavelength of a microwave frequency or microwave signal is important in choice of a proper component. If lambda, that is wavelength of a signal, becomes comparable to the dimensions of the component we are using, then lumped elements are not useful. Okay, if dimensions of a component we are using are smaller than the wavelength of a signal that we are going to process, then we can easily use lumped element. If lambda is greater than the dimensions of lambda is smaller than dimensions of a wavelength we are using, so it's lambda is smaller than the dimensions of a square signals we are using, then we have to go for distributed elements. Okay, and that's why different components are used at different frequencies. So relation between wavelength of a signal and dimensions of a components are very important. Okay, there is however large range of frequencies and circuit sizes where lumped elements may not be realizable, and that's the reason most of the time we go for distributed parameter model. So let's look at the analytic solutions to design the matching network. Analytic solutions mean calculating the formulas of the different components, like in this case if we say Zx and Zb, what will be the value of this Zx and Zb? Let's find out by the formulas. So first of all, let's assume that ZL is equal to RL plus JXL, that is real part plus imaginary part. Then this circuit would be used when ZL is equal to ZL by Z0 is inside the 1 plus Jx circle on the Smith chart. Okay, so one thing you have to note, the resistor circle in the Smith chart, ZL is inside, then you have to use this particular configuration. Okay, now here it is mentioned ZL is equal to ZL divided by Z0. So ZL equal to ZL divided by Z0 is called as normalized load impedance. Okay, so normalized load impedance or normalized ZL is given by ZL divided by Z0. So if this normalized ZL is inside the resistance circle on the Smith chart, then we will use this particular configuration. Okay, I am repeating again. If normalized load impedance is inside the Smith chart or inside the resistance circle of a Smith chart, then we will use this particular configuration of matching network. Okay, because of this, RL is greater than Z0 for this case. So how RL should be greater than Z0? Now we want ZL to be inside the resistance circle. Now the resistance circle has a resistance of 1. R is equal to 1. Now if RL is greater than Z0, what will happen? RL plus JXL, that is ZL is equal to RL plus JXL. Now this will be greater than Z0. If RL is greater than Z0, then RL plus JXL will be greater than Z0. That is ZL is greater than Z0. And if ZL is greater than Z0, then normalized load, that is given by ZL by Z0, will be greater than 1. So whenever normalized load will be greater than 1, ZL will fall inside the resistance circle. Got it? If RL is greater than Z0, ZL will become greater than Z0, and if ZL becomes greater than Z0, normalized ZL will become greater than 1, and because of it ZL will fall inside the resistance circle. Okay, so when we do that, when we achieve that condition, RL is greater than Z0, then the load impedance, we are considering impedance because first element is series element, the load impedance must be equal to Z0, so that maximum power gets transferred from transmission line to the matching network. So Z0 is the output or characteristic impedance of transmission line. Now it should be total impedance of the matching network also. So Z0 is given by, let's see how it is calculated, Jx in series with Jb. Okay, so sorry, not Jx in series with Jb. Jx is in series with parallel combination of Jb and ZL. So that will give us Z0. So doing that, we will get an equation as Z0 is equal to Jx plus 1 upon Jb plus 1 upon RL plus JXL. So if we rearrange this equation, we will get these two equations. This is a mathematical part. Just you can simply rearrange them to find out these two equations. Once we find out these two forms, we can rearrange them further to find the values of B and X. So after doing that, we get B as a XL plus or minus square root of RL upon Z0 into square root of RL square plus XL square minus Z0 RL divided by RL square plus XL square. This is a very long formula. You can calculate that at your own pace and use this formula of B into this equation, second equation, to find out the value of X. Okay, so X can be found out by using this formula of B, and we can get values of B and X for this particular configuration of matching network. So as you can see, since RL is greater than Z0, this square root will always produce a positive value, since RL square minus Z0 RL will be positive because RL is greater than Z0. Because of that, that square root will be always positive. And as you can see, there is a plus or minus over here. In the formula of B, there is a plus or minus over here. There are two values of B possible. Since there are two values of B, both will be used in the calculation of X. So there will be two values of X. So both values are realizable because positive means capacitor and negative means inductor. Okay, so positive values of B and X represent capacitor for this configuration, and negative values represent inductor for this configuration. Okay, so this is the first configuration. Now let's look at the second configuration, in which first is a shunt element and followed by the series element. So since first is the shunt element, we have to look for 1 upon Z0 rather than simply Z0, that is admittance. Now in this particular configuration, or when this configuration is used, whenever ZL is outside the resistance circle on the Smith chart. Okay, so that means ZL is less than 1, because inside ZL will be greater than 1. Now this ZL I am talking about is a normalized load impedance, that is ZL by Z0. Always remember, while doing calculations on a Smith chart, you have to calculate normalized load impedance. So you can refer the previous discussion how to calculate whether RL should be less than or greater than. So RL is less than Z0, so ZL divided by Z0 is less than 1, and that's why ZL falls outside the circle. So 1 upon Z0 becomes the total impedance of the matching network, which can be calculated by ZB plus ZB parallel with, since this is admittance, we are calculating admittance, that's why ZB plus Jx and combination of Jx and ZL, that is 1 upon RL plus J into X plus XL. If we had been calculating impedance rather than admittance, the formula would have changed. So to make it simple, we are considering an admittance instead of impedance. Okay, so again, like the previous case, rearrange these two equations, or rearrange this equation to obtain these two equations in terms of B and X, then further rearrange them to find the formula for X and B. So the X and B for the second configuration, that is ZL outside the resistance circle, X and B can be found out using these two formulas. Okay, so that is how you can analytically find out values of the components by using values of load impedance, characteristic impedance, and using the Smith chart also. But if you want to avoid remembering these values of or formulas for X and B, there is a simpler way, that is use of a Smith chart. So X and B can be found out in a simple way using a Smith chart. This we will discuss in the next video. Okay, so in this video we have found out what is matching network, how to design it using analytic solutions, then what are the before that we found seen what are the important factors that should be considered while designing a matching network, and how simpler solutions can be obtained for finding the component values X and B, that is solution is Smith chart. So the detailed way of finding X and B using Smith chart will be covered in the next video. Thank you for watching. Thank you.